So hey guys, welcome to Appalachia's Homestead. I'm beginning to can and I'm actually preparing to start blanching all of these tomatoes to get ready for salsa, and anything that's left over I'm going to be just putting away, maybe a couple of quarts of tomatoes. It's really amazing because, you know, if you've grown tomatoes or you can tomatoes a lot, then you know that this looks ginormous and then you get like 3 pints. Let's go. Welcome to the channel. Okay, so what I'm doing right here before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything is I'm just prepping everything. I had to go through the kitchen again, clean it up, load the dishes, clean the sink, clean the stove top again, get everything ready, throw things, you know, you have to clean. And then what I'm doing right now actually is I'm prepping the vegetables that are going into the salsa, and then I'm going to be blanching the tomatoes. So I'm just getting everything set up. This recipe that I'm going to be using today, and I'm just going to highlight it, okay? This is pretty straightforward and very simple. This is a water-bathed Zesty Salsa. This is your ball canning book, Zesty Salsa. Very easy. I don't do anything complicated. I try to use mostly my vegetables. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So clearly, I'm going to be canning salsa and whatnot using all of my tomatoes. You don't have to. Don't feel bad about it. If you go to the farmer's market and you buy a big old box of tomatoes, go get on with your bad self, honey. If you know, there's all kinds of recipes where you can buy, you know, use canned tomatoes, whatever you want to do. It's your world. But I am going to let you know that, you know, while most things, you know, that you use, you may grow, but I don't grow cilantro. Didn't grow cilantro this year, so I'm cheating. I bought that. I bought that. And not only that, while I have an incredible amount of peppers, green peppers like crazy, and I'm going to be using several in my recipe, the sweet and the bells right here. I also bought a couple of colored yellow and orange. Mine haven't turned yet, so it is so beautiful that when you make salsa to put the different colors in there. So don't feel bad about it. So I'm going to add an orange. Go big orange. I'm going to add the yellow, and I'm going to be adding Giga Gay. That's red and Cherokee. Now, I am proud to say that I am going to be using my own onions. These are the ones that I've grown this year. They are delicious. These are the candy from Dixondale, and I'm going to be putting in, I've already been cutting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop all the onions, wait, don't get ahead of yourself. I discovered today that all of my jalapenos are coming in. So I grabbed a couple of jalapeno peppers. I'm pretty much doing the recipe. I'm trying to stick with the recipe. I highly encourage you that if you're going to be canning, if you're a first-time canner, I said this on my previous video, really try to stick with the recipes as much as possible. I mean, if you change an orange pepper from a green, that's not a big deal, okay? You're looking at portions, and when they tell you to add things like vinegar or lemon or different things like that for acidity, there's a reason they're telling you to do that. So don't avoid those, okay? So just letting you know, this is from the Ball Canning Zesty Salsa, pretty much following the whole recipe. The garlic, the onions, the jalapeno, and the peppers, I'm actually going to pre-cook a little bit. I find that my salsa is just so much more flavorful if I pre-cook them, like in some, and put just a little bit of olive oil in it, and just make them translucent and soft. It just bursts with flavor with the onion. It's just so good. It's really awesome and better if you can do it on open fire. It's hot as fire today, so we're not going to do that. But we are going to put it on the stovetop. So these are just a couple of tips that I have for any recipes, particularly your marinaras and your salsa. Some people don't do what I just said. They just throw it all in there and cook it and go. Boil it down, simmer it, ladle it, can it, and go. But if you can kind of roast or kind of pre-cook up those vegetables and then mix it with the tomato, it's good. Okay, so all I'm going to do is a light simmer in the cast iron Dutch oven here. Just going to get them warm and translucent and working up all together, and then we'll work on our tomatoes. Okay, so I've got to hurry, and my film helper is folding towels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to core out the tomato. Just cut out the core, and then I'm going to do a hot cross buns on the tomato. Literally crisscross. Okay, there's not going to be any waste because anything that I've taken off, I'm going to put in a bucket and I'm going to give it to my chickens first thing in the morning. No waste. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your tomatoes and you're going to put them in boiling water, okay? Be very, very careful. So I've just turned it down a little bit. So I'm just plopping the tomatoes in there. I'm just going to do 2 so you can see it. I usually do about 3 or 4 at a time. You're just going to let them boil in the water. What that's going to do is start softening them up, and it's going to have the skin start to kind of shrivel up a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tomatoes out, transfer them to the sink, and I'm going to put them in ice cold water. And you have to move quick. So this is an important tip. This is why, now some of y'all that have been doing this for, umpteen years, you can do 10 at a time. I only do 3 or 4, so I don't burn myself, drop something on the floor. I do all that stuff. But you put it over there and just do 3 or 4 at a time because you want to get the skin off. Okay, so that's what we're doing. So I'm just going to put the tomatoes in the ice water, and the skin's going to come right off. You have to move pretty quick and have all of your stuff lined up, y'all, because you're going to have to probably put more ice in the new water coming up, because as you start to do more tomatoes, it's going to heat up that ice water, and the tomatoes after that won't peel as quick. So we're going to plop that in there. So that's all we're going to do, okay? See right here? Just peels right off. Peaches do the same thing, y'all. Well, it's a hot mater, okay? That's a bad spot right there. So you can investigate the tomatoes too. It's a little bad spot, but we're still going to work with it. I'm going to put this in a large pot. We're going to do about 25 to 30, depending on the size, and we're going to rock and roll and get some tomatoes. All right, I switched knives. My last one wasn't worth no count, as that's what my papa would say. All right, so I'm doing yellow, orange, all a mix of tomatoes, okay? And I'm going to put it in there. My canning jars, I'm using pints. They are in the dishwasher, so I'm going to be using a mixture, depending on how many I get, regular to wide mouth pints. They are washing right now. So see, I'm not to the canning phase. I'm prepping the food phase, keeping everything clean, lots of hand washing, etc. Now, here's a quick tip. You can also not waste the skins of the tomatoes. When they peel off, you can keep them. You can dehydrate them in your dehydrator. That's right. And then grind them up, and then you'll have tomato powder. Just like that. So, there's no waste. If you want to feed your chickens tomorrow, if you're in a hurry, or if you want to save them and dehydrate them and put them in the pantry for some great stuff to add to like marinara sauces and etc., there you go. No waste. So this is the inside of a pineapple tomato that you all have been asking about. That's what Tawanda is. This is one of her little sisters. And this is what they look like. Beautiful tomatoes, beautiful heirloom. So just to show you what that looks like. Okay, so the next part of this, 100 women will tell you 100 different things. I'm simply going to take the tomatoes and I'm just chopping them up real fast. They're soft. And I'm putting them in the pot where I'm going to cook my salsa, okay? You can put them in crock pots at this point, depending on what you're making. You can put them in roasters. I've done every single bit of this, whatever. But I'm just going to cut, because we're gonna have to boil this, okay? I like a chunky salsa. I don't like that watery, runny stuff. So if you like the watery, runny stuff and then add all that other stuff to it, then you can run it through like a Vitamix or blender, whatever you want to do. I don't like that. I like brass monkey, that chunky monkey. Let's go. All right, so we're gonna bring this to a boil on a medium-high heat, okay? So that's what I'm working on. You have to constantly be stirring it. You don't want anything to stick on the bottom. Again, I like my salsas really thick like this, so this is my preference. Now, once we get it to that boil, we're gonna reduce the heat a little bit, and we're gonna let it simmer for about 10 minutes or so. And then at that point, we're gonna be ready to actually ladle it into the pint jars. That's what we're going for, and can it. This is looking so good. Okay, so see, in between different points, I clean up, I may change my shirt, I get a different couple of new towels, all of that. My canner is heating up, it's very hot. I filled it about halfway. I'm gonna kind of eyeball it because depending on how many jars I get in there and submerge it, this is a water bath canner, you water bath this. We're gonna watch and see if it covers up at least about an inch or so, about an inch, over the top of the actual jars, okay? Learn how to water bath, get you a ball canning book, go through the basic understanding of how to use a water bath. It's very different than a pressure canner, okay? It is easier, but there are things you have to do. The salsa is ready. It smells and looks fantastic. We may get more than what it says you should get, which is 4 pints. We're gonna find out. I washed 8. Depending on what I think I'm gonna get, I always have found out that I just go ahead and like wash 7 or 8, have them ready to go for that one batch because I'm gonna run just, I just fill the canner one time. I don't double layer or anything like that. So we're gonna fill these up. We're gonna see how it looks. Followed the recipe pretty much to a T. Like I said, when you're working with tomatoes, homegrown tomatoes, not every tomato is going to be exactly perfect medium size. Some are a little bit smaller, some are a little bit bigger. So you kind of have to work with that. So I may have a little bit more in here than we expected, but we're gonna find out, okay? Jars are washed and hot right out of the dishwasher. I have everything set up, see? Gotta be organized as much as you can. It makes it go better. Going to be ladling the salsa into the jars, the pint jars. These are regular mouth. Have my lids ready to go. I have all my little instruments that you should have, you find in your books, whatever. You're going to have your headspace be 1/2 an inch according to the recipe. Follow that instruction. It is important. Do the best you can to have it right where they tell you to so you have safe canning methods going. All right, so we have 8 pints in the canner. We are waiting for it to get to a nice boil. We will process at that point for 15 minutes. Let me show you what I did with the leftovers. So there was this much kind of more soupy leftovers. I really took out a lot of the thick for the pints because I would like a thick salsa. So what I'm going to do is take this and freeze it and use it as a soup base. How awesome is that going to be for a vegetable soup, tortilla soup, whatever you want to do. So that's what I'm going to do with the base. So as you've seen through this whole process, there has been 0 waste, and well, we still have plenty of tomatoes to process. All right, it's bedtime. It's 11 p.m. So we have all the pints out. It does appear that they have all sealed, went through the entire processing situation in the water bath. Then what I do when the timer goes off, I sort of let things turn off, cool down for a minute or 2. Then I pull the jars up out of the hot water and I let them sit for a few minutes. I don't just yank them out of the canner. Some people may do that, it may work for you. I've never been taught to do that. But I sort of take your time. You don't want to shock and all this work from one extreme temperature to another. That's part of the issue in terms of time with canning. Is it's not necessarily hard, but it is time consuming so you can do it right. So, you just gradually move everything into the next phase. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to let these sit till tomorrow morning. Make sure that they are sealed. And if you've watched my videos before, you know that I like to take the rings off, right? because I don't keep them on. And then I'll make sure everything is wiped down really good, and I will date my pints with what it is and the date and put them away on the shelf, and I will wash my rings, dry them, and hang them up to use for the next time. I only put the rings back on if I'm traveling with the jar or I'm gifting it, okay? All right? We appreciate you watching here at Appalachia's Homestead. Whew. More canning coming up. A lot to do this season. We appreciate you being here. Hope you learned something. This recipe is in the ball canning book. It is the Zesty Salsa. I will put salsa. I will put the link to the recipe that's online in the description so you can refer to it. And you'll see that they give you the options of how you want to change it up in terms of the peppers and different things like that. And all of the particulars. Follow the instructions. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, share. Enjoy the season, and we'll see you on the next video.